So, this video is going to be regarding the most insane / best feats in Untitled boxing game history. At number 4, this is going to be a top 4. This feat is pretty insane, and every single one of these feats that I'm going to mention are extremely close to impossible. The higher we get, that much closer it gets to impossible. At number 4, this feat is winning the entire UBA World Championship tournament. We have one coming up very soon. We haven't had one for 6 months. Basically, anybody who's 21,500 RT, which is rank, basically world champion and higher, can enter the tournament. I'm not sure how many people they actually get for this tournament, but you end up having to get like probably anywhere between a 10 to 20 win streak, and you pretty much win the entire tournament. A lot of it also sort of has to be luck in terms of, you know what I mean, who you're matched up with, what regions you end up having to fight, because if you're not in your region, your ping is going to be worse, and it's going to make it that much more difficult, especially considering the fact your opponent's going to be fairly skilled and they may have a ping advantage. At number 3, it is actually more difficult, which is reaching the highest rank in the game, which is Undisputed Champion. The reason why this is more difficult is, first of all, you're not going to be fighting, like, for the most part, especially when you're getting closer to Undisputed Champion, you start getting less and less ranked points. It gets to a point where you're only making like barely 10. You're getting barely 10 per win, and you're fighting high ranking unified champions, and you're barely getting 10 ranked points for your win. You know, you might get anywhere between 10 to 20, and it gets like slightly less and less and less as you go up, especially if you were to try and grind the ranked leaderboard. So again, at number 3, it's reaching Undisputed Champion rank. Now, of course, from here on out, this is going to be the second and first best feats ever done. I forgot to mention people who have accomplished those feats. At number 4 is Clownish. He is an insanely good Undisputed Champion. For sure one of the best that I've ever seen that's accomplished that. For number 3, well, there's a lot of people who've accomplished number 3, but in my opinion, it's just a harder feat to accomplish when you look at the requirements and how you get there. Although, despite me saying there's a lot, it's only a lot compared to how many have the UBA World Championship title, just because there's one season, the second one's coming up. That's what I mean by that. Now, the second best feat is reaching number 1 on the ranked leaderboard. This is genuinely so insanely close to impossible, I can't describe it. Because first of all, you're either fighting people who are so high, such a high unified champion rank, you might as well call them undisputed, or they're already undisputed champion. And if you guys have ever fought an undisputed champion or anyone close to it, you understand how good they are and how sweaty the fights get. Also, how close these fights can get, and you basically cannot lose. You're probably looking at anywhere between around a 50 to 100 win streak. It's kind of a stretch saying closer to 100. It's a pretty big stretch, but somewhere in between there, and you'll most likely end up number 1 on the ranked leaderboard, which is very hard to do against very high ranking individuals, especially extremely high unified champions, or just undisputed champions straight up. Now, of course, there are levels to this. So if you make it to number 1, if you end up maintaining your number 1 spot on the ranked leaderboard, I'm pretty sure you end up getting a number 1 leaderboard title for the ranked leaderboard, and specifically if you maintain it. Also, same thing goes for second and third place. One person that I know that has reached number one on the ranked leaderboard, although I don't know whether or not he's maintained it for the entire season or not, is 7 stacking. And it's an amazing feat, and he is by far one of the best undisputed champions in Untitled boxing game history. And that number one, it's extremely specific. It's going to be getting the greatest title in one season. By the way, I haven't mentioned how long these seasons last. They only last 14 days. Might sound like a lot, but when you're aiming for these insane goals, they're really not. Reaching a 1,500 win streak in itself is extremely close to impossible. Doing that within 14 days, you might as well call that impossible, okay? And what you end up getting with that is a number one for sure, because there's nobody who's going to be able to match you. If you get a 1,500 win streak within 14 days, first of all, you have to literally basically no life 2 full weeks, all day, nearly every waking minute, grinding, beating other people, right? And by doing so, if you succeed, you're naturally going to get number one on the wins leaderboard and knockdowns leaderboard, and you'll finish that season as number one for sure. Despite other people, because I always see other people who are farming, who have way too many wins and their KOs don't match, stuff like that. But chances are, if you succeed, you're going to end up finishing that entire season as number one on the wins and knockdowns leaderboard. And of course, there's only one person in all of Untitled boxing game history who's ever accomplished that, which is yours truly, Sendo7416. Of course, I have the greatest title, which is a 1,500 win streak. I also have the number one wins leaderboard title, which is Conqueror S49. S49 standing for the season that I was number one in, that I finished number one in. And also the number one knockdowns leaderboard title, which is Death God S49 as well. I have also seen for the knockdowns leaderboard what the second and third place titles are, which is, I'm pretty sure, Slayer and also Demigod. Slayer is for second place and it's silver, and Demigod is bronze. And of course, as you guys have seen, my titles for both Death God S49 and Conqueror S49 for the number one wins and knockdowns leaderboard titles are both gold, signifying that they're first place titles. Now, for those of you who have made it this far, I appreciate you all, and I hope you guys enjoyed the video.